A heartbreaking new update on Clint Eastwood's health is leaving fans emotional, as the 96-year-old Hollywood icon faces his toughest battle yet, with private mobility struggles revealed behind the scenes, and support pouring in from close friends. But what he just told his children about his final legacy plan is what's really shaking Hollywood right now. The movie legend has retreated from the spotlight in recent years, choosing instead to spend his days quietly at home. Clint lives his life at an extremely gentle pace these days, a source told the National Examiner. No red carpets, no press junkets, no interviews. For a man who spent 7 decades in the blinding center of Hollywood's brightest lights, the silence is deafening. The last time the aging icon was seen in public was March 2024, looking hunched over and frail. He attended an event hosted by his pal Dr. Jane Goodall that was conveniently held near his Carmel by the Sea home. According to the Daily Mail, that was it. That was the last sighting. Over a year of near-total absence from the public eye, and the world is left piecing together a picture of him from second-hand accounts, insider whispers, and the faintest glimpses his family are willing to share. He's not bedridden, but there's a lot more R&R that's been factored into his routine, so he can conserve energy and not push himself unnecessarily. The source added, a self-described loner his entire life, the Oscar winner is splitting his time between estates in California and Hawaii. Clint watches TV, including some of his old movies, and reads, a source describes of his current daily routine. He also takes power naps. Think about that for a moment. The man who directed Unforgiven, who made $1 Million Baby, who gave us Gran Torino, is sitting in a house somewhere, watching his own old films on TV and taking naps. That image alone is what has people on the internet breaking down. Clint Eastwood's health in 2026 shows no major acute crises, but insiders note continued physical decline typical for his age. He was last seen publicly in early 2025 at a low-key family event, marking over 450 days of limited visibility by mid-2026. Family statements emphasize his resilience, with son Scott Eastwood describing him as a survivor and trooper. In a June 2025 interview, medical speculation from unnamed physicians points to osteoporosis risks, evidenced by a pronounced upper back curve observed in recent photos. According to a report by Radar Online, Clint's already fragile health significantly worsened after Christina Sandera's death. Clint has deteriorated in recent years to the point where it's beyond hiding. An insider shared, noting that he has lost weight. He's frail and gaunt, and he can't walk without a noticeable hunchback. Getting around comes with a lot of effort and struggle. And yet, and this is important, this is not a man who has given up. The sheer force of will that defines every frame of every film Clint Eastwood ever made has not left the building. Describing his dad as a survivor, a trooper to people, Scott Eastwood insisted in 2025 that the old-school showbiz titan was doing good, but doing good at 95, for a man who has endured what Clint Eastwood has endured in the last 2 years, is a complicated phrase. To understand why the world is watching with such collective emotion, you have to understand what he has lost, who he has been, and what the people closest to him are now saying, because none of it is simple, and none of it is cheap. While Clint's own mother died at 97, the leading man is acutely aware that doesn't guarantee him more time than the friends he's lost. And over the past 2 years, the losses have come hard and fast, one right after the other, leaving behind a man in his mid-90s, navigating grief on a scale that would flatten most people half his age. To appreciate the emotional tidal wave of what Clint Eastwood is currently living through, you have to understand the depth of what he has lost in the last 2 years. It is not one loss, it is not two. It is a cascade of departures, each one striking closer to the core of who he is. It starts with Christina Sandera. Eastwood dated restaurant hostess Christina Sandera from 2014 until her death due to arrhythmia on July 18, 2024, though he did not utter a word in public about their alliance prior to announcing that she had died. 10 years together, conducted almost entirely in private. On July 18, 2024, Eastwood issued a statement that Sandera, 61, had died, mourning that I will miss her very much. No further detail was provided in that initial statement. Sandera's death certificate, obtained a week later by the New York Post, listed her cause of death as arrhythmia, with coronary artery disease outlined as an additional condition. She was 61 years old, 33 years younger than him, and her death, sudden, brutal, unexpected, hit him somewhere that no one from the outside could fully reach. The source posited that the loss of Christina had been a huge factor in his deterioration. Clint and Christina had such a love for each other after more than a decade together that few people share. They said, just 4 months after his rare last public appearance, Clint was dealt this devastating blow. She was only 61. Christina was a lovely, caring woman, he said in a statement via The Hollywood Reporter. 6 words to mark a decade. That restraint, that economy of language, is vintage Eastwood. And somehow it made it hurt more. But the grief did not stop with Christina. In 2025, Clint suffered a double dose of despair when Dr. Jane Goodall, who had been the only person able to drag him out of the house a year earlier, and repeat co-star Gene Hackman both passed away. Goodall had been 91. Hackman, the towering actor whose career ran parallel to Eastwood's for decades, was 95. There was no finer actor than Gene, Clint said of the latter via Variety. He was also a dear friend whom I will miss very much. Gene Hackman and Clint Eastwood had a relationship that stretched back decades. Eastwood had directed and starred opposite Hackman in the political thriller Absolute Power, 1997, alongside the work they had done together in Unforgiven. Their friendship was the kind forged in the fire of serious work, in rooms where craft was the only language that mattered, and both men spoke it fluently. All of it, the passing of Christina, the loss of Hackman, the grief piling on grief, plays out in the shadow of personal loss, lending a stark echo to the questions about time that run through his career. While Clint's own mother died at 97, the leading man is acutely aware that that doesn't guarantee him more time than the friends he's lost. At 95, you start doing the maths differently. You start counting not what's ahead, but what's behind. And when the people who anchored your daily life, who could physically get you out of the house, who called and made you laugh, who knew where every sentence was going before you finished it, when those people are gone, the world contracts in a way that no amount of California sun can warm back up. As of August 2024, Eastwood was doing okay according to his son Scott. In early September, his daughter Kimber reported that the shock value is wearing off, and by the end of that month he already had a new girlfriend. According to investigative journalist Robert Ehringer, the resilience even in grief is pure Eastwood. But resilience is not immunity. Partner Christina Sandera's July 2024 death exacerbated visible weight loss and frailty. The physical toll of emotional devastation is real, and in a man his age it compounds quickly. The inside sources paint a portrait of someone who is upright, still fighting, still waking up every morning, but carrying a weight that is now visibly written into his body. It is a story about what grief looks like when it arrives in volume, and at velocity, and at the very moment when the body has the least left to spare. To understand how profound Clint Eastwood's current retreat feels, you have to understand the scale of the machine that has now gone quiet. One of the most legendary Hollywood figures of all time, Eastwood started his career starring in several spaghetti westerns during the 1960s. Before adding directing to his arsenal, going on to helm movies like 1992's Unforgiven and 2004's $1 Million Baby, both of which won Oscars for Best Director and Best Picture. But the career did not begin there. It began decades earlier, in the dusty TV ranges of the American West. Eastwood's first major success came in the 1950s with the long-running NBC series Rawhide, where he portrayed Rowdy Yates. The show not only introduced him to American audiences, but also honed the stoic, taciturn presence that would later define his most memorable film roles. From there, the trajectory became the stuff of cinema legend. In the mid-1960s, Eastwood collaborated with director Sergio Leone on the Dollars trilogy, A Fistful of Dollars 1964, For a Few Dollars More 1965, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly 1966. Those 3 films did something that no one expected. They took a struggling TV actor from California and made him an international icon. The man with no name, the squinting eyes, the cheroot, the silence that said everything, from the grizzled westerns that made him a household name, to the profound stories he told as a director. Eastwood's career spans an unparalleled range. His portrayals from the relentless Dirty Harry to the moral dilemmas of $1 Million Baby have etched him into cinematic history. Clint, at 94, had been an industry powerhouse for decades and directed an astonishing 16 movies in the last 20 years, not to mention writing, producing, and starring in even more. That is not a legacy, that is a rampage. That is a man who refused, decade after decade, to slow down, not because he was proving something, but because work was simply who he was. I like working. That's when I'm feeling my best. and the people around me know that. The Western legend once said of his relentless pace, "His ethic completely aligns with how the Gran Torino star views the world," as he once told Esquire in 2008 that the smaller details are less important, allowing him to write, film, edit, and release almost a movie per year. And then came Juror number 2. Eastwood released his most recent movie, Juror number 2, in 2024, and there was talk around that time that it might be his final film. Though it didn't earn any Oscar attention like his past work, it earned near universal acclaim with certified fresh and verified hot Rotten Tomatoes scores of 93% and 90% from critics and audiences. A paltry box office return didn't stop it from becoming a streaming favorite the second it arrived. But here's where the story turns raw. Eastwood returning to work with Warner Bros. Was noteworthy, considering the studio buried Juror number 2 by releasing it in fewer than 50 theaters across the United States. The studio's decision to limit the film's release was widely criticized within the industry, especially given the director's enduring box office appeal and his 50-year relationship with the studio. Think about what that means. A 94-year-old man, one of the last great living directors of his generation, delivers what many critics called a masterwork, and the studio dumps it into 50 theaters with no fanfare and no support. The man who built the edifice left standing in the rubble. Gabriel Basso, who starred in the film, told IndieWire, "I feel like he'll find a way to make another movie just to stick it to everybody." Toni Collette even revealed that he was looking for other projects to make. While Juror number 2 couldn't film due to the SAG-AFTRA strikes, she believes he will do it as long as he wants. The prospect that the $1 Million Baby Oscar winner might retire was what drove Kiefer Sutherland to pursue what could be his last opportunity, to work with one of his idols, with a letter and a bit of gratitude. Sutherland wrote to him, he sent a letter, because he understood that windows close and legends become unreachable, and you only get so many chances to say thank you in person. That is the emotional texture of where Clint Eastwood sits in Hollywood right now. Not just an old man slowing down, but a force so enormous that even the possibility of his departure sends the people around him reaching for paper and pen. Part 4. The body that built the legend. The secrets behind 96 years. The grief. The seclusion. The frailty. They are real. But to dismiss Clint Eastwood's physical story as simply one of decline is to miss the other half of the picture entirely. Because the reason anyone is surprised by his frailty is that for most of his 96 years, his body operated like a machine built for the long haul. Eastwood has been a health and fitness fanatic since his teens. During the production of Rawhide, he appeared in magazines and journals that often documented his health-conscious lifestyle. In an August 1959 edition of TV Guide, for example, Eastwood was photographed doing push-ups. He offered tips on fitness and nutrition, advising people to eat plenty of fruit and raw vegetables, take vitamins, and avoid sugar-loaded beverages, excessive alcohol, and overloading on carbohydrates. This was not a trend. This was not a phase. This was a philosophy carved into the bedrock of who he was, and it never wavered. Celebrity biographer Sean Levy, author of the book Clint, The Man in the Movies, has written about the health practices that have contributed to the actor's longevity. In a recent Airmail article, Levy noted that Eastwood is a lifelong gym rat and fitness freak, who has also favored an organic, low-fat diet since the 1950s, when alfalfa sprouts and yogurt were considered exotic, and in the 60s, he was touting the benefits of sushi, Levy added. In the 1960s, when sushi in America was something most people had never seen, and most doctors had never recommended, Clint Eastwood was already eating it, already understanding instinctively what the science would take decades to confirm. When talk show host Jimmy Kimmel once asked if he indulged in nachos or chicken wings, Clint's response was characteristically blunt. None of that crap. Instead, Eastwood follows what he calls the 90-10 rule. 90% of the time he opts for lean and green meals, leaving the other 10% for occasional treats. His plate often features wild-caught salmon, skinless chicken breasts, and an array of vibrant vegetables. Broccoli and asparagus are staples, packed with fiber, vitamins, and minerals that support everything from digestion to bone health. And then there is the mind. Eastwood has practiced transcendental meditation daily, often twice a day, since the mid-1970s, even while working, according to Levy. Every morning and every evening, decades of stillness stacked on top of stillness. building a reservoir of calm that no amount of Hollywood chaos could drain. Celebrity biographer Sean Levy points to this as one cornerstone of Clint's routine. The actor's commitment to health began early. He was just a boy when his father succumbed to cardiovascular disease, a loss that left an indelible mark. Clint once told a friend, "Losing him made me realize life can be short. If you don't look after yourself, you might not have time for the things you love." That realization steered him toward personal wellness long before longevity became a buzzword in Hollywood. "And my father died young, at 63. He once said to Reuters, 'What you put into life is what you get out of it.'" Take good care of yourself and do the best you can, and the rest is wherever it is. That is not a philosophy he arrived at in old age. That is a philosophy formed in the shadow of a father's early grave, and it has governed every meal, every workout, every meditation session for the better part of 8 decades. Clint takes a page from blue zone communities, regions known for high concentrations of centenarians, by prioritizing low-impact everyday activity. He stays physically active and includes strength training, walking, and stretching in his routine. He wants to lift, not to impress, Sean Levy explains. Clint builds muscle the way you'd build a house, brick by brick, rep by rep. Medical speculation from unnamed physicians points to osteoporosis risks, evidenced by a pronounced upper back curve observed in recent photos. Statistics from the National Osteoporosis Foundation indicate that 1 in 2 men over 90 face fracture risks, aligning with Eastwood's reported challenges in mobility and posture. The body, no matter how carefully it has been maintained, eventually begins to register the decades. Gravity wins, cartilage wears, the upper back that once stood ramrod straight begins its arc. His health trajectory defying 95-year-old actuarial odds where U.S. life expectancy sits at 76.4 stems from disciplined living, zero tobacco since the 1980s, moderated wine. He has outlasted what science said was likely for him, and the people who have watched him do it, the fans, the collaborators, the insiders, are simultaneously in awe and in grief, because you cannot watch someone outrun time for 96 years without eventually understanding that time always catches up. Part 5: What Hollywood Says, What the Internet Feels, and the Legacy That Lives Regardless. The grief the internet is expressing about Clint Eastwood's health update is not just about one man getting old. It is about something much larger, a reckoning with what he represents, what he built, and what it means for that to be fading. For generations who grew up with Clint Eastwood's films, this health update stirs a profound sense of vulnerability. The man whose persona seemed impervious on screen now faces a battle that unites fans in collective concern. The man with no name was always the last man standing. Dirty Harry always walked away. The cowboy always rode off into the sunset. And now the sunset is not a movie ending. It is real and it is close. And people do not know how to hold that. International fan communities have organized online vigils, sharing clips of Eastwood's most uplifting speeches and performances. Fans launched Clintstrong in 2025, amassing 2.3 million posts on X by May 2026. Film industry colleagues, co-stars, and directors, many of whom credit Eastwood with shaping their own careers, have also expressed heartfelt support, from seasoned cinematographers who recall his insistence on authenticity, to younger actors inspired by his pared-down style and magnetic screen presence. Tributes poured in under hashtags like #GetWellSoonClint. Hollywood peers like Morgan Freeman praised his indomitable spirit at the 2025 Oscars. Martin Scorsese has noted that Clint redefined aging in cinema, with Eastwood's output after the age of 80, 7 films, exceeding Scorsese's own output of 4 in the same window. But perhaps the most emotionally striking voices are the ones from the people who worked most recently beside him. Kiefer Sutherland was picked by Clint Eastwood for a role in the 2024 legal thriller Juror No. 2. Though not completely confirmed to be Eastwood's final project, the prospect that the $1 Million Baby Oscar winner might retire was what drove Sutherland to pursue what could be his last opportunity: to work with one of his idols, with a letter and a bit of gratitude. Then there's the question of what comes next, or whether anything comes next at all. His son Kyle Eastwood seemed to clear up any room for doubt, as he told France Info in an interview from November 2025. "I have many great memories working with him. He is retired now. He is 95 years old. I was lucky to be able to work with him on so many films. That was a wonderful experience to me. Retired, past tense. His son used the word without hesitation, and the internet heard it and felt it, because it was said not with sorrow, but with the warmth of someone who is grateful it happened at all. Clint Eastwood is a jazz musician and composer who contributed to many of his father's films, including Letters from Iwo Jima and Invictus. He knows what those rooms smelled like. He knows what it cost and what it gave back. Juror 2 marked Eastwood's 40th directorial project and was initially pegged as a potential swan song. If Clint Eastwood is indeed done making movies, he can rest assured that he went out with an excellent swan song. But here's the thing about the health update that makes people cry. It is not really about decline. It is not about frailty, or the hunchback, or the power naps, or the retreat to Hawaii. What makes people cry is the accumulation. It is Christina, gone at 61. It is Gene Hackman, gone. It is Jane Goodall, gone. It is the last public appearance in March 2024, hunched and quiet at an event near his home. It is Kyle saying he is retired now in the past tense. It is Scott saying, doing good with the careful softness of a son who is watching closely and choosing his words carefully. Clint Eastwood's longevity has long drawn admiration and discussion. Despite his age, recent comments from his son Scott indicate that the legendary actor and filmmaker is in good health. But good health at 95 is a different phrase than it was at 70. It means something more careful, more measured, more like, he is still here and we are grateful. He has reached the frankly, I don't give a damn point in his life, alleges a friend. And maybe that is the truest thing that has been said about where he is. A man who spent a lifetime playing the stoic, the gritty, the unbreakable, has arrived at a place beyond pretense. There is no more squinting into the sun and proving anything. There is just Carmel by the sea, and the TV, and the old films, and the naps. You probably have more fear as a younger person than you do as an older person. Clint once told Reuters, and perhaps that is the gift that comes with 96 years. The fear evaporates. What is left is simply the life you lived, and the work you made, and the people you loved. From the grizzled westerns that made him a household name, to the profound stories he told as a director, Eastwood's career spans an unparalleled range. His portrayals, from the relentless Dirty Harry to the moral dilemmas of Million Dollar Baby, have etched him into cinematic history beyond acting. His directorial achievements remain remarkable, often weaving themes of mortality, guilt, and redemption. He spent 70 years making movies about what it means to be human, about loss, about redemption, about staring down the worst of life and still standing. And now he is living the last chapter of that story himself, quietly, at his own pace, on his own terms. That is why people cry. Not because something is broken, but because something was so extraordinary, and because the clock that ticks for all of us is now audible in a way that it was not before. Clint Eastwood is still here, and the world, watching from a distance, is not yet ready for the day when he isn't.